Hey, what is going on YouTube? Hey, Aaron here. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. And guys, we've got a quick first look video for you guys here of the Michelangelo. I only had time for a few games this morning, but I think I got enough to see what this ship is all about. Now, I want to be very careful how I word these next upcoming statements because I know just the inevitable YouTube comment section is going to have a problem with them. Of course, only playing 3 games does not give you a full grasp of a ship. However, in those 3 games, I felt myself wanting more out of this ship. Of course, you only have 2 guns, quad turrets, located in the center of your ship there. And as you can see, the firing angles are pretty abysmal. In addition to that, there is no dedicated cruiser commanders for secondaries, so you will have to sacrifice and put on a battleship commander if you do want the secondary meme build, which I think is actually a viable option and something I definitely have to try tonight on stream, as even without a full secondary build, these secondaries absolutely shredded the few targets we did get to engage in this game. As we just watch a comical moment here as our Velos takes a very predictable zoning torpedo. But anyway, we move on to talk about the maneuverability, and this movie scene from Rush is actually the perfect description of how I feel about the maneuverability for this boat.
It's terrible. Drives like a pig.
Oh, you can't say that.
Why not?
It's a Ferrari.
It's a shitbox.
I know I'm going to get some hate for that one, but I just thought it was funny to insert. And honestly, the maneuverability, it does feel like you are driving a pig. It's not overall that fast compared to the Italian cruisers. Now, I do believe you can get up to 35 knots, and we are actually running a bit of an agile build on this particular ship, and it still just felt like I was trying to drive a toaster through a car wash. Now, that being said, this ship is certainly fun, it's certainly unique, and in the right set of circumstances, such as this flank over here with some island cover, she can absolutely be abusive to the enemy team when you can put her into the right positions. However, if you don't get to pick your spawn and you don't get to pick your enemies, I think a majority of the player base is going to struggle with this ship. She's sluggish, she's a little bit slow comparative to her other Italian counterparts. The guns, you have to turn all but broadside in order to use them. You will constantly get up-tiered, as we actually did manage to get down-tiered into this game. And while the guns do absolutely abuse, in order to get the full effectiveness out of the ship, you will have to basically sacrifice any cruiser traits you want in order to put a battleship commander on her. And yeah, now that doesn't mean she can't be fun, that doesn't mean she can't be unique, but I do like to give objective opinions about ship, and based off my very brief replays this morning, those are my objective opinions. But anyway, now working our way into the fun factor as Aaron discovers that, yeah, trying to maneuver a massive cruiser in this tight channel is just not really going to be an effective strategy for trying to highlight and showcase this ship. Earlier in the day, though, I had been far too aggressive, and I absolutely got memed for it, so I was trying to play on the edge of aggression while still maintaining some decent position on the enemies. And here you can actually see our secondaries are going off. And with a more secondary-oriented build, we certainly would have been doing a little bit more damage than we did in this particular situation. If you were paying attention to the minimap and the scoreboard, you would have noticed that there was an Oysterjotland in the cap there. Yes, that is how you pronounce that ship. And that is the reason we had the SAP loaded. However, I would definitely recommend keeping that AP loaded. These 320mm guns absolutely slap targets when you can put your ship in a position to do so. But there was a connecting torpedo hit on that Schroeder, and it appears as if he had used a damage con a little bit earlier, and he is still flooding. On top of that, that Oysterjotland is still in the cap, as we do manage to actually get the kill on the Schroeder there and obtain the first blood medal in the process. And Amalfi out there on the flank, as well as a carrier dropping us, on top of an AL multiplier being out there on the north side of C. So we certainly have our work cut out for us. However, with some decent angling, the amount of health we have, the SAP secondaries, the torpedoes, I felt it appropriate to push into this situation. We did have some battleship support, but if you actually look at them, they were near full health at the back of the map, and oh yeah, you could tell it was update day this morning. What a time to be alive. It was really at this point, though, that I truly noticed how kind of sluggish and slow you feel. the time it takes to get up to 35 knots, it just feels like it's so much longer than other ships that go 35 knots. Something to note about this boat, however, is because of the way your guns are positioned, you can actually bow tank and get your secondaries on target. The problem is you cannot shoot and bow tank with your secondaries on target. As we mentioned, your guns need about a 35 to 40 degree angle in order for you to be able to shoot. The problem with that is you are putting yourself in the auto bounce region, so you can get pinned, and even citadels, as I absolutely got yeeted by a Veneto earlier in the day. Here is a situation though that I wish I had my sonar and smokescreen available as we pop our secondary boost consumable. This Amalfi kind of forced my hand in this situation. He turned to the right there, which forced me to open up my angle. If he had his AP loaded, he probably could have done a little bit more damage to me, as your citadel is not that protected. But I want you to notice the amount of damage we were doing to him with simply our secondaries. Now we do unfortunately eat all of his torpedoes, but with the amount of health we have and the amount of health he doesn't, with how effective our torpedoes are, we got the depth strike and survived with a little over a third of our health, with a few heals still remaining to counteract a little bit of the damage that he did to us. So a beautiful outing there to highlight and showcase how effective the SAP can be, making sure you maintain your angle, as well as how strong the torpedoes are. While they do lack a little bit of range and you do only have 3 of them, they do a lot more damage than the typical Italian torpedoes tend to do. And here we find ourselves in a little bit of a unique situation that AL Multiplier actually used his radar a little bit sooner, and his last spotted position was slight broadside to us sailing around this channel. Unfortunately, he decided to beach broadside in front of a battleship instead of sailing out to us, so we actually don't get any of that damage or that kill. But with good positioning and paying attention and knowing the capabilities of our ship, we have easily controlled this flank and have given our team a great opportunity to win. I am going to go ahead and skip ahead a little bit, as I wanted to highlight this salvo. We get it off there as we work our way into the cap on the Nebraska. Not the most accurate salvo, but these guns absolutely slap. 9,000 damage there. You do have a 20-second reload, and we are actually running the reload modification, the legendary reload modification, so that is dropped down a little bit from what it would be with, let's say, a secondary modification in that slot, which, as I mentioned, we will be trying later. If you can get this ship into the right spot, as we mentioned earlier, this thing is absolutely going to surprise a lot of people with how tanky it can be, the obnoxiousness of the gun layout and the SAP secondaries. However, you have to put yourself in the right spots. Again, as you can see, we are opening up angle. Probably should have been a depth strike on the AL Choppy, but I just wanted to highlight the AP here because I think it absolutely obliterates targets, as again, you're kind of seeing the effectiveness of these SAP secondaries on this AL Chapiev. This thing is absolutely going to shred cruisers, kind of similar to the Schroeder, but I feel like a lot of people are just like, well, duh, but tanky cruiser with secondaries. Okay, well, what can that accomplish? Yes, getting into the right spots, you can be kind of the thorn in the side of the enemy. However, if they have your broadside or develop a crossfire because your teammates are too passive, there's absolutely nothing you can do to counter that. All in all, I think this ship is certainly going to be a lot of fun. Like I mentioned, if you can get in the right set of circumstances, it is certainly unique. I am just hesitant to say that this ship is really good, strong, or any of the above aforementioned adjectives that a lot of the other content creators like to use. I feel like there's just this attitude sometimes that we overhype a lot of these ships, and I truthfully have not been impressed with a campaign in a long time. If you're looking for something different, the Michelangelo is certainly it. If you're looking for something to carry a lot of games, I would look elsewhere. But that is a review there, a nice little first place finish with 3 kills. Not that much damage, but a good first look video, which gives you guys an objective first look at the ship. But let's go ahead and take a look at our commander build, the stats, modifications, etc. Francesco Mimbelli was our specific build for this particular game. Near full agile there with the target indicator Ingenious in the first slot. Now, I've mentioned it about 5 times already, but I know I'm going to get a comment. This is just the build I was running. This is not the best, worst, most fun secondary type build. I am going to meme a secondary build and try to max out the secondaries and try to have a little bit of fun and memes in the process, but this was just the particular build I was running for this game. And even with the quote-unquote agile perks, I still felt as if this ship was just far too sluggish to be wiggling in and out of situations such as other Italian cruisers do. Let's go ahead and review our modifications though. Aiming system in slot 1 there. Again, you can choose secondaries. I know, I get it. Go to the comments and type it out as I consider changing it while I was doing this recorded video here. Propulsion in slot 2. You could argue for steering gears or the steering perk, but I think propulsion is almost necessary. Concealment in slot 3. You can get your concealment down to, as I think, in game 10.1 with Makawa there. So pretty good concealment, which allows you to get into certain situations. And there, again, is legendary reload mod. The reload is abysmal. Again, if you're running a secondary build, choose the secondary mod. And there, of course, is the SAP module. Why we have access to HE is a Legends question I will never understand, but anyway, that is how you access the SAP portion. Here are your consumables as we head on over to the sonar. 4.7 of ships, 3.3 of torpedoes. You couple that with your rolling smoke and you can get a very dangerous ambush predator. However, you do lose your heals in return, so something you will have to consider in the pros and cons of how you like to play. Let's go ahead and look at the stats. Survivability, 66,100 there, a decent bit of health to play with. As a super cruiser, we had this argument earlier, you're not a heavy cruiser, you're a super cruiser. And that is defined by the caliber of your guns. As you can see, 320 millimeters here. And with our specific build, 15.4 kilometer range, 20.4 reload. And without anything, I believe, spec'd into the secondaries, you get a 6.8 base kilometer range with a 4.2 reload of the 90s and a 9.2 reload for the 150s. 2x3 533 millimeter torpedoes, a max damage of 20,000 there, but you only get 8 kilometers worth of range, and they are a little bit faster there with the 72 knot speed. AA defense is 72. You just kind of look at the mid and long range AA in order to determine how good it's going to be. It's not that great, honestly. Maneuverability 35.2. It doesn't feel like you go 35. An 830 turning circle and an 8.4 rudder is, even with a full agile build, is just abysmal. Like I said, that clip from Rush, it steers like a pig. You know, it's a shit box. What can I say? Concealment, though, is pretty decent at 10.1. Heading on over to the armor viewer, though, you can see your nose is a massive plate of 25 millimeters, which can be overmatched by most battleships at the tier. On top of that, you do have a rather exposed citadel from that 25. As you can see, it's kind of accessible very easily from the front. You have an icebreaker, but it's so far below the water there, it's not going to do anything. So yeah, good luck defending against rushing straight into battleships. The good news is you do have some decent casemate and actually a little bit of spaced armor, it looks like there. However, your citadel is pretty much half of the way up the freeboard there, so trying to turn to get your guns on target, especially in close ranges, is only going to put you in someone else's meme compilation. But there you have it, folks, the Michelangelo in all her glory. Like I said, this is definitely not a boat you will see me taking out very often. However, it is certainly new, it is certainly unique, and something I recommend getting if you play this game often. As always, the Admiralty backing is always worth it as we look at the ship overview there. Kind of a beautiful ship with a rather unique camo, but that is a first look at the Michelangelo. Let me know if you guys want to see the full secondary build, if you couldn't care less, if you're going to get this ship. If not, argue all you want in the comments. It loves to help that algorithm there. You guys have a great Monday here. I'll see you guys tonight on stream. I'm out. Peace.